First contact. Dr. Elena Rees squinted at the quantum entanglement device, its intricate array of mirrors and lenses glowing faintly in the dim light of her underground lab. Years of research, countless sleepless nights, and more cups of coffee than she cared to remember had led to this moment. With trembling fingers, she adjusted the final calibration. "This is it," she muttered to herself, a mix of excitement and trepidation coursing through her veins. "Either I've cracked instantaneous communication across vast distances, or I've wasted half a decade on an elaborate light show." She took a deep breath, steeling herself for either outcome. Initiating quantum entanglement in 3, 2, 1. Elena pressed the activation button. For a split second, nothing happened. Then, a blinding flash of blue-white light erupted from the device, enveloping her entire body. She felt a peculiar sensation, as if every atom in her being was being pulled apart and reassembled simultaneously. The world around her blurred, twisted, and then vanished entirely. When the light faded and Elena's vision cleared, she found herself not in her familiar lab, but in a vast alien landscape. Towering crystalline structures stretched towards a purple sky, their facets refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. The air was thick with an unfamiliar, sweet scent, and gravity felt slightly off, as if she might float away with a particularly vigorous jump. "Well," Elena said aloud, her scientific mind already cataloging the impossible surroundings, "I don't think we're in Kansas anymore, Toto." She patted her pockets, relieved to find her basic toolkit still intact. Her communicator, however, was fried, little more than a paperweight now. As Elena contemplated her next move, a rustling sound from behind a nearby crystal formation caught her attention. "Hello," she called out, curiosity overriding caution. "Is someone there?" A figure emerged, and Elena's jaw dropped. Standing before her was unmistakably an alien bipedal, but with iridescent scales covering its life body. 4 arms extended from its torso, each ending in delicate, 6-fingered hands. But it was the being's eyes that truly captivated Elena, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle on its face, swirling with colors she had no names for. The alien tilted its head, studying Elena with equal fascination. It made a series of musical chirps and trills, clearly attempting communication. Elena shook her head, gesturing to her ears and mouth to indicate she couldn't understand. The alien's eyes brightened, and it reached for a small device attached to its hip. After a few quick adjustments, it spoke again, this time in perfect, albeit slightly stilted, English. "Greetings, strange creature. I am Zixlith, xenobiologist of the Crystalline Concordance. Your appearance is most unexpected and intriguing. From where do you hail, and what manner of being are you?" Elena blinked, momentarily overwhelmed by the situation. Here she was, light years from Earth, having a conversation with an honest-to-goodness alien. Her inner scientist was doing backflips of joy. "I'm Dr. Elena Rees," she managed, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm a human from the planet Earth, and I have to say, I'm just as surprised to be here as you are to see me." Zixlith's eyes swirled faster, a mesmerizing display that Elena guessed indicated excitement. "A human from Earth. We've intercepted transmissions from your world, but never dreamed of actually encountering one of your kind. This is a momentous occasion." Elena couldn't help but smile at the alien's enthusiasm. It mirrored her own feelings perfectly. "I couldn't agree more. I was attempting to create a quantum entanglement communication device, but it seems I accidentally invented a teleporter instead. Oops." Zixlith made a sound that might have been laughter. "A fortuitous accident indeed. Come, you must tell me everything about your world, your species, your science. In return, I shall share the wonders of Crystallos with you." As they walked towards a shimmering structure that Zixlith explained was a research outpost, Elena's mind whirled with questions. "Your translator is remarkable," she said. "How does it work so effectively with a completely unknown language?" Zixlith's upper arms gestured in a shrug-like motion. It analyzes brainwave patterns associated with communication intent, cross-references with our vast linguistic database, and extrapolates meaning. It's not perfect, but it suffices for basic interaction. Elena whistled, impressed. That's light years beyond our current technology. Though I suppose my accidental teleporter might give your people a run for their money. They entered the research outpost, a vast chamber filled with holographic displays and equipment Elena could only guess at the purpose of. Other aliens, similar to Zixlith, but with variations in coloration and body structure, looked up from their work. A chorus of surprised trills filled the air as they noticed Elena. Zixlith raised all 4 hands, speaking rapidly in their native language. The other researchers kept their distance but watched with undisguised curiosity as Zixlith led Elena to a private alcove equipped with scanning devices. "I hope you don't mind," Zixlith said, "but I'd like to perform some basic scans to learn more about your physiology. Nothing invasive, I assure you. And perhaps we can take a look at your teleportation device as well." Elena nodded, her own scientific curiosity overriding any apprehension. "Of course, I'm just as eager to learn about your species, though I'm afraid my device is back on Earth, only I came through." As Zixlith began the scans, bathing Elena in a soft, tingling light, they exchanged a rapid-fire series of questions and answers. Elena learned that the crystalline concordance was a peaceful coalition of sentient crystal-based life forms. They had achieved interstellar travel centuries ago, but preferred to observe other developing civilizations from afar. In turn, Elena shared information about Earth's history, biology, and current level of technological development. Zixlith was particularly fascinated by humanity's diverse ecosystems and the concept of evolution through natural selection. "Remarkable," Zixlith murmured, studying the scan results. "Your biology is so dynamic, constantly changing, adapting. We crystallines reach our final form upon maturation and remain largely static thereafter." Elena's eyes widened as she looked at the holographic display of her own internal structure. "This is incredible. The level of detail. I can see individual cells. Are those my mitochondria?" Zixlith confirmed her observation, then hesitated. "Elena, there's something unusual in your scan. Are you aware that your body is currently undergoing a significant hormonal shift? There are signs of, I'm not sure how to interpret this. Is this normal for humans?" Elena frowned, mentally calculating dates. Her eyes widened in realization. "Oh, I think I might be at the start of my menstrual cycle. It's a normal reproductive process for human females." The alien's eyes swirled with a new pattern, which Elena was beginning to interpret as confusion or surprise. "Reproductive process? You mean this is related to how humans create offspring?" "Well, yes," Elena said, suddenly feeling a bit awkward. She hadn't expected to be giving an impromptu lesson on human reproduction to an alien scientist today. "It's part of our monthly fertility cycle. Why? How do crystallines reproduce?" Zixlith's response was interrupted by a commotion from the main chamber. Another crystalline burst in, its colors pulsing in what Elena guessed was agitation. It spoke rapidly to Zixlith, who turned to Elena with all 3 eyes wide. "I apologize, but we have an urgent situation. Long-range sensors have detected an anomaly approaching our star system at impossible speeds. We've never seen anything like it." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Could it be related to how I got here? Maybe the quantum entanglement had larger consequences than I realized. Zixlith's colors shifted to a more subdued palette. "It's possible. We need to investigate further. I hate to impose, Dr. Reeves, but your unique perspective could be invaluable. Would you be willing to assist us?" Elena nodded without hesitation. "Of course. I might be responsible for this after all, and please call me Elena." As they rushed to join the other researchers, Elena's mind raced with possibilities. She had come seeking a breakthrough in communication, only to find herself in the middle of a potential interstellar crisis. Whatever was coming, She was determined to help her new alien allies face it. Little did Elena know, her adventure was only beginning, and the cultural exchange about to unfold would challenge everything both she and the crystallines thought they knew about life in the universe. Cultural exchange. Elena hurried alongside Zixlith towards a central command center of the research outpost. The corridors pulsed with an eerie, bioluminescent light that seemed to reflect the urgency of the situation. As they walked, Elena couldn't help but pepper her alien companion with questions. "So, you mentioned that you've never seen anything like this anomaly before," she said, slightly out of breath from trying to keep up with Zixlith's longer strides. "What makes it so unusual?" Zixlith's three eyes swirled in a pattern Elena was beginning to associate with deep concentration. "It's moving faster than should be possible given our understanding of physics. And its energy signature, it's unlike anything in our extensive database." They entered a vast, dome-shaped room, filled with holographic displays and bustling with crystalline researchers. Elena gasped at the sheer scale of information being processed around her. At the center of the room, a large three-dimensional projection showed a swirling mass of energy hurtling through space towards a cluster of planets. "Is that your solar system?" Elena asked, pointing to the hologram. Zixlith nodded, all four hands moving in complex patterns as they interacted with various holographic interfaces. "Yes, the anomaly will reach the outer edges of our system in approximately 72 Earth hours." A tall, imposing crystalline approached them, its scales shimmering with an authoritative deep purple hue. Zixlith straightened noticeably. "Lead researcher Vexalia," Zixlith said, bowing slightly. "This is Dr. Elena Reeves, the human I told you about. Elena, this is our chief scientist." Vexalia's three eyes focused intently on Elena, who felt as if she were being scanned down to the molecular level. "Fascinating," the alien said, its translator rendering the word in a rich, melodious tone. "Your arrival and this anomaly occurring simultaneously cannot be mere coincidence. Tell me, Dr. Reeves, what exactly were you attempting to do with your device?" Elena took a deep breath, organizing her thoughts. "I was working on establishing quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication across vast distances. The theory was sound, but clearly something went wrong in the execution." Vexalia's eyes swirled rapidly. Quantum entanglement on that scale, the energies involved would be enormous. It's possible you created a tear in the fabric of space-time itself. The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. "Oh God," she whispered, "I might have doomed your entire civilization." Zixlith placed a comforting hand on Elena's shoulder. "We don't know that for certain. Your insights could be crucial in finding a solution. But first, we need to understand more about your technology and your species." Vexalia nodded in agreement. "Indeed. Dr. Reeves, would you be willing to undergo a more comprehensive examination? We need to understand human physiology better if we're to grasp how your experiment might have affected the fundamental forces of the universe." Elena straightened her shoulders, pushing aside her guilt and fear. "Of course, whatever you need." The next few hours were a whirlwind of tests, scans, and increasingly probing questions. Elena found herself in a chamber that seemed to be equal parts medical bay and physics lab. As the crystallines studied her, she studied them right back, her scientific curiosity helping to keep her anxiety at bay. "Your cellular structure is remarkable," Zixlith commented, examining a holographic representation of Elena's DNA. "So much potential for variation and adaptation. Our own genetic equivalent is far more static." Elena peered at the display, marveling at the level of detail. "It's a result of our evolutionary history," she explained. "Constant environmental pressures forced our ancestors to adapt or die out. But tell me about your own biology. How do crystallines develop and reproduce?" Zixlith's colors shifted to a soft pink hue that Elena hadn't seen before. "Our reproduction is a complex process of energy exchange and mineral accretion. When two crystallines decide to create offspring, they enter a meditative state and align their core energies. Over several cycles, they channel this combined energy into a seed crystal, imbuing it with the potential for consciousness. Elena's eyes widened. Fascinating. So there's no genetic recombination as we understand it. No, physical joining. The pink in Zixlit's scales deepened. Physical joining? You mean like your species, sexual reproduction? Now it was Elena's turn to blush. Well, yes. I assume you've gathered some data on that from your scans. Vex'Elia joined the conversation, its tone one of scientific interest, tinged with what Elena thought might be embarrassment. We have, though much of it is perplexing. Your reproductive cycle seems incredibly complex, and forgive me, rather messy, and you engage in this process regularly. Elena couldn't help but laugh. Well, the actual reproduction part isn't that frequent for most humans, but the physical act itself, yeah, pretty regularly for many people. It's not just about reproduction for us. It's a way to express love, intimacy, and pleasure. The crystallines exchanged looks that Elena couldn't quite interpret. Zixlit spoke hesitantly. Pleasure. You mean the process is enjoyable? Very much so, Elena said, feeling increasingly amused by the alien's mixture of scientific curiosity and apparent embarrassment. It releases all sorts of feel-good chemicals in our brains. Oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, it's a whole cocktail of positive reinforcement. Vex'Elia's eyes swirled rapidly. Intriguing. Our own forms of intimacy are more energetic in nature. The alignment of core frequencies, the resonance of complementary patterns. But the idea of physical pleasure tied so closely to reproduction, it's quite alien to us. As they continued to discuss the intricacies of human and crystalline biology, Elena found herself developing a deeper appreciation for the sheer diversity of life in the universe. Despite their radically different physiologies, she was struck by the similarities in their intellectual curiosity and capacity for empathy. I have to ask, Elena said during a lull in the examination, how do crystallines express affection? You mentioned intimacy, but what about love, friendship, family bonds? Zixlit's colors shifted to a warm golden hue. We form deep energetic connections with those close to us. It's a literal sharing of our inner light. Family units, which we call resonance clusters, maintain a constant low-level energy exchange. As for romantic love, the alien's colors flickered in a way that made Elena think of a blush. It's an intensity of resonance, a harmony so perfect it's almost overwhelming. Elena smiled, touched by the beauty of the concept. That's lovely. It's not so different from how we think of love, really. We talk about being on the same wavelength, about sparks flying between people who are attracted to each other. Vex'Elia, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. Dr. Reeves, your willingness to share and learn is admirable. I believe this exchange of knowledge may be key to understanding the anomaly and finding a solution. Just then, an alarm blared through the facility. The holographic displays flickered, showing the swirling energy mass that was approaching the crystalline system. It had accelerated, covering an impossible distance in a matter of hours. By the first crystal, Vex'Elia exclaimed, its usual composure shaken. The anomaly, it's evolving. Changing. Almost as if it's alive, Elena finished, a chill running down her spine. Zixlit turned to Elena, all three eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. Elena, I have a theory, but it's going to sound crazy. Your device, your attempt at quantum entanglement, I don't think you just created a tear in space-time. I think you might have inadvertently given birth to a new form of life, a being of pure energy and quantum potential. Elena's mind reeled at the implications. That's impossible, isn't it? Vex'Elia's colors pulsed rapidly. In all our centuries of scientific advancement, we've learned that the universe has a way of surprising us. Dr. Reeves, your human perspective, your species' adaptability and capacity for lateral thinking, we need all of it now. Will you help us try to communicate with this entity? Without hesitation, Elena nodded. Of course, whatever it takes. As the research team scrambled to recalibrate their equipment for this unprecedented task, Elena found herself at the heart of a truly alien first contact scenario. The cultural exchange that had begun as a fascinating scientific endeavor had now become the potential key to averting disaster and ushering in a new era of understanding in the cosmos. Zixlith worked alongside Elena, their earlier awkwardness around biological differences forgotten in the face of this new challenge. "Elena," the alien said softly, "regardless of what happens, I want you to know that meeting you, learning about humanity, it's been the most extraordinary experience of my life." Elena felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling that transcended species and biology. "Same here, Zixlith. Whatever this entity is, whatever happens next, I'm glad we're facing it together." As they turned their attention to the looming crisis, Elena couldn't help but marvel at the strange twists of fate that had brought her to this moment. She had sought to bridge the gap between distant points in space, only to find herself bridging the gap between entirely different forms of life. The true cultural exchange, it seemed, was only just beginning. Unexpected revelation. As the crystalline research team worked feverishly to establish contact with the approaching energy anomaly, Elena found herself with an unexpected moment of downtime. The aliens had to recalibrate their quantum resonance arrays, a process that apparently took several hours even with their advanced technology. Zixlith approached Elena, its colors swirling in a pattern she was beginning to recognize as curiosity mixed with slight nervousness. "Elena, if you're amenable, I was hoping we could continue our discussion about human biology. There are still many aspects I find puzzling." Elena smiled, grateful for the distraction from the looming crisis. "Of course, Zixlith. What would you like to know?" The alien scientist led her to a small, quiet alcove off the main research chamber. As they settled into conformable crystalline seats that seemed to mold to their bodies, Zixlith's colors shifted to a deep blue that Elena associated with serious concentration. "During our earlier scans," Zixlith began, "we detected a complex hormonal process occurring in your body. You mentioned it was related to your reproductive cycle. Could you elaborate on this? The concept of cyclical fertility is foreign to us." Elena felt a slight blush creep into her cheeks. It was one thing to discuss human reproduction in broad, scientific terms. It was another to delve into the nitty-gritty details of her own menstrual cycle with an alien. Still, scientific curiosity won out over embarrassment. "Well," she began, "human females have a monthly reproductive cycle. It's controlled by hormones that cause various changes in our bodies. The most noticeable part is menstruation, which is when the uterus sheds its lining if pregnancy doesn't occur." Zixlith's eyes widened, all three swirling rapidly. "Sheds its lining? You mean part of your internal organ is expelled from your body regularly?" Elena couldn't help but chuckle at the alien's shock. "Yes, it happens about once a month. It's perfectly normal and healthy for us." "Fascinating," Zixlith murmured. "And this process, is it painful?" "It can be," Elena admitted. "Many women experience cramps, mood swings, and other symptoms, but it's just a part of life for us." Zixlith's colors pulsed rapidly, a sign Elena had come to associate with intense emotional or intellectual stimulation. "Incredible. Your species willingly endures regular pain and discomfort for the sake of reproduction. The drive to continue your genetic line must be extraordinarily powerful." Elena laughed. "Well, it's not like we have much choice in the matter. It's just how our biology works. But you're right, the human drive to reproduce is pretty strong. Though for many of us, the act of sex itself is more about pleasure and intimacy than making babies." Zixlith tilted its head, a gesture it had picked up from Elena. "Yes, you mentioned that before. This physical pleasure. It's a concept we struggle to understand. For crystallines, the act of energy alignment for reproduction is satisfying in a spiritual sense, but not physical. Can you describe this pleasure?" Elena felt her blush deepen. Well, it's intensely pleasurable. There's physical stimulation, of course, but also emotional and psychological components. It releases feel-good chemicals in our brains, creates a sense of closeness and bonding with our partners. It can be tender and loving, or passionate and intense. Zixlis colors shifted to a soft pink hue, and humans engage in this activity even when not attempting to reproduce. Purely for fun. Absolutely, Elena nodded. It's a big part of human culture, relationships, even art and literature. Of course, it's also the source of a lot of societal rules, taboos, and conflicts. The alien's eyes swirled in a pattern Elena hadn't seen before. Rules and conflicts. Over an act of pleasure and bonding. Why would that be necessary? Elena sighed, realizing she was about to open a whole new can of worms. Human sexuality is complicated. There are issues of consent, of course, ensuring that all parties involved are willing and able to participate. Then there are cultural and religious beliefs that often dictate when, how, and with whom people should have sex. Not to mention the potential consequences: unwanted pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections. Zixlis colors pulsed rapidly, almost strobing. Infections, you mean the act can be dangerous? It can be, if proper precautions aren't taken, Elena explained. But we have ways to prevent both disease transmission and unwanted pregnancies. Condoms, birth control pills, various medical treatments. The alien held up one of its hands, as if physically trying to pause the flood of information. Let me understand this correctly. Humans regularly engage in an activity that is potentially painful for females, can lead to disease, might result in unwanted offspring, and is so complex it requires numerous societal rules to govern it, all for the sake of pleasure and pair bonding. Put that way, Elena had to admit it sounded a bit absurd. Well, when you put it like that. But Zixlis, it's also one of the most profound and beautiful experiences humans can share. It's a cornerstone of our relationships, a source of incredible joy and connection. Zixlis was quiet for a moment, its colors shifting through a range of hues Elena couldn't quite interpret. Finally, it spoke. Elena, I hope you'll forgive my forwardness, but would you be willing to share more personal information? Have you experienced this? Sexual pleasure yourself? Elena felt her face grow hot. Yes, I have. I'm not currently in a relationship, but I've had sexual partners in the past. The alien leaned forward, its curiosity palpable, and it was enjoyable for you, despite the potential risks and complications. Very much so, Elena said, finding herself smiling at the memories. It's not always perfect, especially when you're young and still figuring things out. But when it's good, it's really good. It can make you feel connected to another person in a way that's hard to describe, like you are sharing something incredibly intimate and special. Zixlis colors swirled in a mesmerizing pattern. It sounds beautiful and terrifying and utterly alien. The crystalline paused, then added, yet I find myself fascinated by the concept. The idea of such intense physical and emotional connection, it's both shocking and oddly appealing. Elena raised an eyebrow, a bit surprised by this admission. Really? I wouldn't have thought it would appeal to a species so different from humans. Zixlis colors shifted to a deeper pink. Perhaps it's simply scientific curiosity, or perhaps spending time with you has opened my mind to new possibilities. The way you describe it, this human intimacy seems like it could be a profound way to bridge the gap between our species, to truly understand one another on a deeper level. Elena felt a flutter in her stomach, realizing the conversation had taken an unexpected turn. Zixlis, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? The alien's colors pulsed rapidly. I'm not entirely sure what I'm suggesting, Elena. These feelings are new and confusing. I simply know that I feel a strong connection to you, a desire to understand you more deeply. Is that inappropriate? Elena took a deep breath, trying to process the situation. Here she was, light years from Earth, having what essentially amounted to a conversation about interspecies attraction with an alien scientist. It was surreal, thrilling, and more than a little terrifying. "It's not inappropriate, Sixlith," she said carefully. "These kinds of feelings, curiosity, attraction, the desire for closeness, they're natural when two individuals form a strong bond, even across species apparently. But we have to be careful. There's still so much we don't know about each other, biologically and culturally, and we're in the middle of a potential crisis." Sixlith nodded, its colors settling into a calmer blue. "Of course, you're right. I apologize if I made you uncomfortable. It was not my intention to." Elena reached out and gently placed her hand on one of Sixlith's upper arms. The alien's scales were smooth and cool to the touch, with a faint vibration that felt almost like a purr. "You didn't make me uncomfortable, Sixlith. I'm flattered, actually, and if I'm being honest, I feel a connection to you too. But let's focus on the task at hand for now, okay? We can explore these feelings more once we've dealt with the approaching anomaly." Sixlith's colors brightened, and Elena felt the vibration under her hand intensify. "Agreed. Thank you, Elena, for your understanding and openness. Studying human reproduction has been enlightening, but experiencing this emotional resonance with you is truly extraordinary." Just then, an alarm sounded throughout the facility. Vexilia's voice came over the communication system. "All researchers to the main chamber immediately. We've made contact with the anomaly." Elena and Sixlith exchanged a look, a mixture of excitement and apprehension passing between them. As they hurried back to the main research area, Elena's mind was reeling. Not only was she about to participate in humanity's first contact with a potentially new form of life, but she was also navigating the uncharted waters of interspecies attraction. As they entered the bustling main chamber, Elena caught sight of the central holographic display. The swirling mass of energy that represented the anomaly had changed. It now pulsed with a rhythmic pattern, almost like a heartbeat. Vexilia approached them, its colors a mix of excitement and concern. "Dr. Rees, Sixlith, we've managed to establish a rudimentary form of communication with the entity. But there's something else, the patterns it's emitting. They bear a striking similarity to human brainwaves." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Are you saying the anomaly is somehow human?" Vexilia's eyes swirled rapidly. "Not exactly. But it seems your quantum experiment didn't just create a tear in space-time. It may have given birth to a new form of consciousness, one that carries echoes of its human origin." As the implications of this revelation sank in, Elena realized that her conversation with Sixlith about human reproduction had been more relevant than either of them could have imagined. In a way, her experiment had resulted in the most unexpected form of procreation in human history. Sixlith placed a comforting hand on Elena's shoulder. "It seems, Elena, that you may have become a mother on a cosmic scale." Elena stared at the pulsing hologram, a mixture of awe and terror washing over her. "Well," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I guess we're about to find out if I'm ready for parenthood." As the research team gathered to plan their next move, Elena couldn't help but marvel at the strange twists of fate that had brought her to this moment. Human reproduction, it seemed, was full of surprises, even on an intergalactic scale. Interspecies tensions. The news of Elena's presence on Crystallos spread through the crystalline society like a shockwave. What had begun as a closely guarded secret within the scientific community quickly became the subject of intense debate and speculation across the planet. Elena stood before a large window in the research facility, gazing out at the alien landscape. The crystalline structures that had once seemed so magical now felt oppressive, a glittering cage that separated her from her home. Sixlith approached, its colors muted in what Elena had come to recognize as concern. "Elena," the alien scientist said softly, "the High Council has called an emergency session. They want to discuss you." Elena turned, her expression a mixture of worry and resignation. "I suppose it was only a matter of time. How bad is it?" Zixlith's colors flickered uncertainly. It's complicated. Your presence, and the anomaly that followed you, have caused quite a stir. There are those who see this as an unprecedented opportunity for advancement and interspecies cooperation. Others see me as a threat, Elena finished, her voice flat. Zixlith nodded, its upper arms gesturing in a shrug-like motion. Fear of the unknown is not unique to humans, it seems. Come, Vexalia wants us in the command center. We're to participate in the council meeting remotely. As they made their way through the facility, Elena noticed the other crystalline researchers watching her with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The easy camaraderie she had begun to feel with her alien colleagues seemed to have evaporated overnight. The command center was a hive of activity when they arrived. Vexalia stood at the center, its colors pulsing with barely contained agitation. A large holographic display dominated one wall, currently showing a swirling mass of energy that Elena recognized as the anomaly. Ah, Dr. Rees, Zixlith, good, Vexalia said as they entered. The council meeting will begin shortly. I must warn you, the mood is tense. Before Elena could respond, the holographic display flickered and changed. Instead of the anomaly, it now showed a large, circular chamber filled with crystallines of various hues and patterns. At the center was a group of 5 particularly large and ornate individuals that Elena assumed were the High Council. One of the central figures spoke, its voice resonating through the command center with an authority that made Elena's skin prickle. This emergency session of the High Council is now in session. Lead researcher Vexalia, please present your findings regarding the alien visitor and the approaching anomaly. Vexalia stepped forward, its colors shifting to a formal, professional pattern. Esteemed council members, as you're aware, 3 solar cycles ago, our research facility experienced an unprecedented event. A being from another world, a human named Dr. Elena Reeves, appeared in our midst due to an apparent malfunction in her species' experimental teleportation technology. Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. Vexalia continued, Dr. Reeves has been cooperative and has shared valuable information about her species and their technology. However, shortly after her arrival, our long-range sensors detected a massive energy anomaly approaching our system at impossible speeds. One of the council members interrupted, its colors flashing aggressively. And you believe these events are connected? That this alien has brought some kind of threat to our world? Elena felt a surge of indignation, but before she could speak, Zixlith stepped forward. If I may, honored council members, while it's true that the anomaly appeared following Dr. Ree's arrival, we have no evidence that it poses a direct threat. In fact, our latest findings suggest it may be a new form of consciousness, one born from the human's experiment. Another council member spoke, its tone skeptical. A new form of consciousness, created accidentally by a species that hasn't even mastered interstellar travel. This strains credulity. Elena could remain silent no longer. Excuse me, she said, her voice firm despite her nervousness. I understand your concerns, but I assure you, I mean your people, no harm. I'm a scientist, just like many of you. My goal is to understand, to explore, to push the boundaries of knowledge. If my experiment has indeed created something new, something potentially sentient, don't we have a responsibility to try to communicate with it? The chamber fell silent for a moment, all eyes focused on Elena. Finally, the central council member spoke again. Your words are passionate, Dr. Reeves, but passion does not negate the potential danger of this situation. We must consider the safety of our people first and foremost. Vexalia interjected, Council members, if I may. Dr. Reeves' insights have been invaluable in our attempts to communicate with the anomaly. Her unique perspective, as both its creator and a member of a different species, offers us opportunities we cannot afford to ignore. The debate continued, with various council members and other crystallines weighing in. Some argued for caution, suggesting that Elena be confined or even sent away somehow. Others advocated for continued cooperation, seeing the potential benefits of interspecies collaboration. As the arguments grew more heated, Elena noticed Zixlith becoming increasingly agitated. Its colors were shifting rapidly, in patterns she hadn't seen before. Suddenly, the alien scientist burst out, "Enough." The chamber fell silent, all eyes turning to Zixlith. Even Elena was taken aback by the outburst. "Honored Council, esteemed colleagues," Zixlith began, its voice trembling slightly but growing stronger with each word. "I understand your fears. The unknown can be terrifying. But in all our long history, has fear ever led us to greatness? Has isolation ever brought us enlightenment?" Zixlith moved closer to Elena, placing one of its hands on her shoulder in a gesture of solidarity. "In the short time Dr. Rees has been with us, I have learned more about the diversity of life, about different ways of thinking and being, than in all my cycles as a xenobiologist. Yes, her presence presents challenges. Yes, the anomaly is unprecedented and potentially dangerous. But it also presents an opportunity for growth, for expanding our understanding of the universe and our place in it." The alien scientist's colors pulsed with intensity as it continued. "I have worked closely with Elena. I have seen her dedication to knowledge, her willingness to share and to learn. She has shown nothing but respect for our ways, even while marveling at how different they are from her own. Is this not the very essence of what we claim to value as a society? The pursuit of knowledge, the embracing of new ideas." Elena felt a lump form in her throat, deeply moved by Zixlith's impassioned defense. She placed her hand over the alien's, squeezing gently in gratitude. The council chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then, the central member spoke again, its tone thoughtful. "Your words are compelling, researcher Zixlith, and yet, the potential risks cannot be ignored. We need time to deliberate on this matter." Vexalia stepped forward once more. "Honored Council, time is a luxury we may not have. The anomaly continues to approach. We need Dr. Rees' insights if we hope to establish meaningful communication with it before it reaches our system." The council members conferred among themselves, their colors shifting in patterns too complex for Elena to interpret. Finally, the central figure addressed them again. "We will allow the research to continue for now," it declared. "Dr. Rees will remain under the supervision of lead researcher Vexalia and researcher Zixlith. However, she is not to leave the research facility, and all findings must be reported directly to the council. Furthermore, we will be increasing security measures around the facility. We cannot risk word of her presence, causing panic among the general population." Elena felt a mix of relief and frustration at the decision. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than being locked away entirely. She stepped forward, addressing the council directly. "Thank you for your consideration. I give you my word that I will do everything in my power to help resolve this situation peacefully. My only desire is to further our mutual understanding and ensure the safety of both our peoples." The Central Council members' colors shifted in what Elena hoped was approval. "Your commitment is noted, Dr. Rees. We will reconvene in one solar cycle to reassess the situation. Until then, we expect regular updates on your progress. This session is adjourned." The holographic display flickered off, leaving the command center in a tense silence. Vexalia was the first to speak. "Well, that could have gone worse. Dr. Rees, Zixlith, let's get back to work. We have a lot to do and not much time to do it." As they turned their attention back to the data streaming in from the approaching anomaly, Elena felt a gentle touch on her arm. She turned to find Zixlith looking at her, its colors swirling in a pattern she now recognized as affection and concern. "Thank you," Elena said softly, "for standing up for me in there. It means a lot." Zixlith's colors warmed. "I merely spoke the truth, Elena. Your presence here, however unexpected, has already changed us, changed me. Whatever happens next, know that you have at least one unwavering ally among the crystallines." Elena smiled, feeling a surge of affection for her alien friend. "And you have one among humans. Now, Let's see if we can figure out how to talk to this anomaly. I have a feeling we're on the brink of something big." As they turned back to their work, Elena couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. The tension with some of the crystallines was palpable, but so was the potential for unprecedented discovery. Whatever came next, she was determined to face it head-on, with Zixlif by her side. Little did they know, the true test of their newfound alliance was yet to come, as the anomaly drew ever closer to the crystalline world.